What's up, world? This is your guy, Guitar K, and today we're going to be talking about anger, man. Look. Anger is one of the 7 deadly sins. Now, the Bible describes it as wrath, but wrath, anger, it's all the same, man. Look, if you don't learn to control your anger will control you, and it might get you to do something that you can't come back from. I know so many people that's sitting in a jail cell for the rest of their life because they let 5 seconds of anger get them to do something that they can never come back from. Anger may cause you to ruin a relationship. Anger may cause you to lose your job. Anger can cause you to do something that you can never come back from. So it's important that you learn to control your anger, man. Don't be ran by your anger. You got to learn to get it under control. Look, when my grandmother passed away, I was so angry. I went on a path of destruction, and the most person that I harmed was myself. And when I was sitting inside of those grief counseling sessions, and those mental health sessions, the one thing that I noticed that I would always say is, now that my grandmother's gone, I don't think that life would ever be as good as it was when she was here. So I started to notice a pattern that until I was ready to turn my life around, until I was ready to admit that I was letting my anger destroy myself, I was never going to get better. So the first step to getting over your anger, to managing your anger, to controlling it, is to admitting that you do have an anger problem. And you have to want to get better. You have to be intentional about getting better. You have to want to manage your anger. You have to want to get your anger under control. Because the truth be told, man, there's a lot of people out here running around that want to be angry. There's a lot of people out here that wear their anger as, like a badge of honor. And it ain't pretty, man. It ain't cute. It ain't nothing sexy about running around here being angry all the time, man. At the end of the day, anger is bad for your health. Anger is bad for your physical health, your mental health. It definitely destroys your spirit. When you're running around with a spirit full of anger, you're going to always find yourself in conflict. You're going to find yourself bitter. You're going to find yourself at the hands of violence happening to you, or that you're portraying violence on others. And at the same time, man, this type of behavior leads you to an early grave. It leads you to bodily harm. It puts the people around you in danger, your loved ones, your family. Look, I've seen so many people, they're angry at somebody. And then this person's angry at them, and they can't get to you, so they get to your family. They get to your loved ones. They get to your spouse, your girlfriend, your kids. Learning to control your anger is very, very important. Look, anger is synonymous to misery. When you're angry all the time, you're miserable all the time. You're going to be living a miserable life if you can't find it in your heart to get rid of that anger, to want to learn to be able to manage your anger and to get your anger under control. And I'm not saying that stuff don't happen in this world that makes us angry. I'm not saying that people don't piss us off, because it happens. But what I'm saying is, you can't let it control you. You got to learn to be able to respond. You got to learn to be able to react in a cool, calm, level-headed way. Look, you got to learn to pause and be like, do I want to do something crazy that's going to affect the rest of my life based on what this knucklehead done said to me or did to me? 9 times out of 10, it's not worth it. When you're responding out of anger, when you're reacting out of anger, it's not really what you want to do. It's not the correct thing to do. It's not the righteous thing to do. And at the end of the day, this is a question that you have to ask yourself. Do you want to live righteous today? Do you want to be a good person today? Do you want to be a kind person today? It's always a way to seek justice. It's always a way, to right a wrong. But 2 wrongs will never make a right. And 9 times out of 10, when you're responding out of anger, it's going to be the wrong response. Look, it never looks good when you're responding out of anger. You're gonna regret what you did when you did it out of anger. And I'm just being honest, and I'm just speaking from myself. Most of the times when I did something out of anger, later on down the road, I regretted it, especially the consequences that came with it. When you do stuff out of anger, you're not thinking clearly. Even like professionals, when you play in a sport, You know, when you're at a job, they tell you to, you got to check that anger at the door, man, because you can't be your best. You can't operate at 100% when you're angry. Anger kills like 50% of your potential out the door. It makes you overreact. It makes you underreact. You're seeing red. You're not seeing everything that's going around you. You might hit an innocent bystander.
Oh,
You're
no.
going to say something that you didn't want to say. Learn to control your anger, man. Look. When you're angry, you get all emotional. And again, emotions is not a good thing when you're trying to be precise, when you're trying to do something the correct way. It's always good to leave your emotions and your anger out of it because you're not thinking logically. You're not thinking rationally. Emotions have no logic to them. Anger is one of the most out of hand emotions that you can operate in. Take a breath, step back off of it for a second. Whatever the problem is, whatever the situation is, it's still going to be there if you sit down and think about what you want to do before you do it. When you operating out of anger, you ain't doing it off of morals. You ain't doing it off of values. You ain't doing it off of nothing that you was learned or taught how to handle a situation. Anger just comes off the hip. It comes off the cup. It comes off the cuff. Like I said before in another video, when you pull out that gun, and I'm not talking about a physical gun all the time, I'm talking about a mental gun. When you squeeze that trigger, you can't put that bullet back in there, man. You gotta be level-headed today, especially with this world today. This is just an angry world that we live in. And you don't want to conform to the ways of this world, because when you conform to the ways of this world, you're going to burn with it. When you learn how to, conduct yourself in a cool, calm manner, you are a rare gem. You will go far. You will be a leader. You will be a step above everybody else that's operating in anger when you are the cool, calm, collective one in the room. I'm telling you, man, when you learn to be cool, calm, and collected today, you are a rare find. You will get promoted over the angry person. Think about it. What would you ever be around? Would you ever be operating with somebody that's cool, calm, and collective? Or would you want to be hanging out with that angry person? Don't nobody really like to call that angry person. Don't nobody want to sit next to that angry person. And the truth be told, like I said, you got to be honest and admit, are you the angry person? If you are, you got to start to want to learn to manage that thing, man. Being angry is going to hold you back. Being angry all the time is going to block your blessings. It's going to keep you from certain spaces that you wouldn't be able to get into if you learn how to manage your anger, man. Look, less anger is better for you. It's better for your family. It's better for the world. It's just better for everybody all across the board when you start to learn how to manage your anger. And I know what so many people are going to say, but everybody else is walking around angry. I'm just giving off the same energy that everybody else is giving off. That type of thinking ain't going to never work. Look, back in the day, and I say this all the time, all the wise people would say, if everybody else is jumping off a bridge, would you do the same? In order for you to better yourself, you're never going to get better by doing what everybody else is doing. You got to do what you need to do for yourself to get better. And you being angry is never going to make you better at anything. Look, man, look. I started to find myself getting less angry at people when I realized that everybody don't see things the same way that I see them. And it's okay, but we can learn to compromise. We can learn to sit down and talk it out. We don't need to see things the same way, but we can learn to get along. We can learn that it's okay that we don't see things the same way. And at the end of the day, when everybody else realize that we're all in this world together. We don't need to agree on everything. All we need to do is agree that we need to get along and that it's okay. It's better to be, getting along instead of being angry. Anger solves nothing. Like I said, anger causes a spirit of bitterness. And at the end of the day, bitterness ain't nothing but poisoning yourself from the inside. When you're angry, you get high blood pressure. You cause yourself more anxiety. You cause yourself more depression. These are things that we can avoid if we learn how to control our anger. At the end of the day, man, unchecked anger leads to bitterness. Bitterness destroys you from the inside out. The only way to combat this anger is to be intentional about being forgiving, being kind, and to pursue peace. No matter what the other person is doing, you be the bigger person. You control your anger. This is your guy, Guitar K. Be more